this house that Grant Wood lived in, it was his last residence before he passed away, and in the late 40s, and the house that he lived in was built by the man who owned the Brickyard over, which is why we have the athletic field behind Longfellow Elementary School, because that was where the old Brickyard was, and they dug clay out of that hill and made bricks in a kiln that was located on that spot. And that tells you a lot about the character and the evolution of a neighborhood, that 150 years ago this is a completely different place.
We knew the Oakes wood house needed to be marked. Nicholas Oakes built a brick house. He's a brick maker, and he had a large brick yard in the area, so we wanted to add to just marking his house. We wanted to mark the fact that there was the brickyard too, an important part of the industrial history of the neighborhood. And then Grant Wood later bought the house and restored it. Did a lot of landscaping in New York. So we really wanted to commemorate that. That's probably, that's regional significance, if not national. So it turned out through some research, the owner, Jim Hayes, determined that an upstairs bedroom was used as a studio for some time before he built a studio in the back of the house. And that was enough to note that we had a good chance that the house itself was significant for Grant Wood himself. For persons, the building has to be some sort of formative aspect of their work. They can't just have lived there. So George Washington slept here doesn't cut it as a nationally significant building, or even locally, really. I mean, it's a point of interest, but it doesn't really make it significant because of George Washington. He had an idea while he was staying there. That's different. If we could document that this building had something to do with his thought process. And so the fact that Jim Hayes found out that I think it's Parson Weems Fable was painted in the upstairs bedroom, and that was enough to say the building was, he worked in it, and it's important. So that's a famous work of his. Jim Hayes provided a history for 1142 court, and that was extensively researched by him, and that was a big help. We didn't have to do much extra research for that sign. So we used his information for the house. For the Brickyard, I had to find all that out myself, and that involved a lot of research on how Brickworks worked. I ended up running down a couple of glass or acetate slides. I can't remember now. The negatives were at the Johnson County Historical Museum. So we got the image for the sign. There's a picture of a Brickworks, and that's the actual Oakes Brickworks, with its beehive kilns and the large tower for the coal furnace. And that was one thing. Irving Weber recalled the ricks of oak wood stacked up by the Oakes Brickyard, and they did start off more than likely with wood, but they very quickly switched to coal.